Hello friends, welcome here at Goodwood Estate on the Goodwood Motor Circuit where I was born. 1963, you'll see the cottage just behind me here. There's two cottages, there's one side and one the other side. They're the Duke style cottages that were built in the Napoleonic Wars, I believe, around that time. So they're quite old cottages. My father worked here on the Goodwood Estate back in the early 60s when they had Formula 1 and different things here on the motor circuit, which is just over here. And so I was born in this cottage, 3 o'clock in the morning, 9th of December 1962. So this was my beginnings. I grew up here on the estate and became a shepherd on the Goodwood Estate farms. Then I went up to Oxfordshire shepherding, and then to Surrey, where I had my spiritual awakening back in 1995. So we'll go more into that. I'm going to do a little life story about myself from where I was born, where I lived not far from here, up on the South Downs, still on the Goodwood Estate, because they stopped racing here in the late 60s, and my father got a job working at the horse racecourse, which is just up on the hills behind here. So we'll have a look at them in a minute. We'll have a quick look at the motor circuit. So yeah, this is where I was born, this little cottage. We'll have a bit of a closer look at it. Shooting this all in 4K, so just to see what that comes out like. Got this little 4K camera. Got a busy airfield here above me. It's Goodwood Aerodrome. The Spitfires were based here in the Second World War, and then there was another airfield not far from here with the big heavy bombers. So yeah, right on the south coast of England, about 8 miles from the sea. So I've just come up here from Bognor this morning, it's about 7 miles, just to do my life story. So yeah, this is where it all began here at this cottage. I actually went to school at a school about 1.5 miles away from here, West Hampton Primary School. It was actually in the shape of the cross, because I had a destiny, you see. And Father God had me born to my mother Mary here, like Mark and Christ were born to Miriam or Mary. Also, I become a shepherd of God, and my middle name is Christopher, a namesake of Christ, which means love of Christ in the heart. So anyway, we'll take a quick look at the cottage a bit closer up. So this is the cottage. As I say, there's one this side that you can't see very well, but this is the cottage here, and that was my mother and father's bedroom at the front there, in the middle of frame, and then we've got downstairs sort of kitchen front room. So that's the bedroom, then the kitchen and front room, another front room. That was my brother's bedroom, and mine was at the rear of the property behind it. So it's number 3 Woodcote. Had a lovely childhood here playing. So that's it, we're going now take a look at the motor circuit where I spent many hours playing as a child. And my father, on my little three-wheeler trike when I was about 2.5, 3 years old, made me cycle the whole way around it, following him on his bike, so quite amazing. Anyway, that'll do for that. Thanks for watching. So this is the Goodwood Motor Circuit, where my father was the working on the course here, and I've got the festival revival meeting they hold here now. There's also our airport here. So this is the motor circuit, comes down here. Bit of a chicane just going through there. It's 2.4 miles, it's all been re-tarmacked a few years ago. And then you've got the airport over here, the planes. Just in there. South Downs in the background. So a small airport for like aircraft, helicopters. And I'm just about 150-200 yards away. As you can see, the South Downs in the distance, and that's where we're heading in a minute, up to the Trundle Hill. When I was 6 years old, we moved up here to the horse race course, which we might just be able to see. You can see the grandstand there. That's where I lived on the horse race course. So it's looking quite cloudy up over the downs, and then I used to go up on the South Downs on the Trundle here and spend a great deal of my time playing up on the downs. So that's where we're heading next, and have a closer look at the horse race course. So born here on the motor circuit, then moved up to the downs, where I became a shepherd when I left school. Worked on the farm for about 5 years, from 79 and then became shepherd in 1984. So that's one last look at the motor circuit. So about centre of shot is where our cottage used to be up on the horse race course. It's been knocked down, unfortunately. These days they had to make room for other buildings, but that's the paddock more or less centre of shot, and then you come across to the grandstand here. So I lived on the horse race course here. My father was the groundsman. As I say, he worked on the motor circuit at Goodwood, but after that closed, there's luckily a job come up for the groundsman up here looking after the race course, and he got that job, so it was brilliant. So lived here from the age of about 6 to 16. I left when I was 16 and lived in some lodgings, but I'd just got a job on the farm before I left here, and just working mostly with the young calves and cattle, beef animals and the dairy replacements, the heifers, and it was lovely and really enjoyed it. That was in 1979 I started working on the farm, and I have worked with the dairy cattle sometimes, didn't like that much. Helped out with the arable, with the crops and harvesting and stuff as well. But I really found a love for working with animals, and luckily I used to work with the sheep sometimes. And I was given the opportunity. My boss asked me in 1982 what I wanted to do, and I said I wanted to be a shepherd. So he gave me the opportunity to work with the shepherd and be the under shepherd. The shepherd was 63, due to retire in 2 years, and he said if you're good enough you can take over. So it was good. And when the shepherd retired, I took over at 21, 1984. 1986 I actually left here, Goodwood, and I went up to Oxfordshire, working on a farm there. To get more managerial experience of looking after a flock and stuff, so I wanted to sort of spread my wings a bit. Stayed there for about 3 years and then come down in about 1990 to Surrey, near Guildford, working on Tongham Farm, 1300 ewes. Goodwood was 1300 here, and I was looking after 700 in Oxfordshire. But yeah, I had a nice job there, got made redundant from there, and then my awakening began soon after that. So we're going to go to Guildford soon, but first we'll just have another look at the race course. You can see the downs in the background, really beautiful, absolute idyllic, lovely place to live as a child. The scenery is so beautiful, it really is. So we just pan round looking at the downs. You can see the race course is ended now, just here in the centre of frame. That's the end of it. And this is all Goodwood, is that you can see in the distance. That's Levingdown. We had sheep there in the middle of frame, just above middle of frame. So it's really beautiful. You can see, I'd say on a good day, between 20 to 30 miles if you're right up on top. So you can see it just goes up a bit in the centre point of the down here. And as I say, this was our old Saxon fort. This had a big wooden wall going all the way around it to protect from their enemies, and a big moat to the left now. That's where the pathway is, where the wall was. You can see the moat going down, and it was occupied then. So yeah, really lovely. Just pan round to the race course again. So I spent many a day up here playing and in the woods on my bike all over the place. The nearest neighbour we had was about 1.5 miles away, so I didn't see many people. Only my brother, and he didn't like playing with me much. Anyway, next we'll be taking a trip up to Guildford to talk about my experiences and my spiritual awakening at the hands of Father God and the Son of God, Peter Citadel, who was here upon this earth from 1945 to 1995. Love and light. See you at Guildford. Good morning, friends. We're looking out from the mount at Guildford, and that's London in the distance. I'll just zoom back. Just at the very bottom of the picture is some street lights in Guildford. So I'm up here at 5 AM in the morning. That's Guildford. And I'm up on top of the end of the Hog's Back at Guildford. So I'm just going to set the shot up for a picture of the cathedral at Guildford. But it's still quite dull out, not much light yet. I don't think the sun's coming up for about another 20 minutes yet. This is the cathedral. Lots of people actually bought bricks and signed the back of them to help build it, so I'll just zoom out of that. So you're looking across Guildford from the bottom of this hill right across to the right more. And well, I was working about 6 miles to the west of here on a sheep farm. Got laid off, ended my contract. Then I got a job working on a building site in that was 93. I got laid off in the summer. Then I got a job on a building site for about 6-7 months. Then in 1st of January, or first few days back in January at work, I wrote to 3 local councils, Aldershot County Council, Borough Council, Surrey County Council and Guildford Borough Council, asking if they had any tractor driving work, because I worked on a farm and done that sort of thing, hedge cutting and verge cutting. So yeah, you know, the Guildford Borough Council grounds maintenance got back to me and asked me to go for an interview. I think I got a phone call on the Tuesday, arranged to go on the Wednesday. Went there on the Wednesday, they offered me the job, tractor driving, and I started on the following Monday. And that's where I met Peter. So we'll talk about Peter more later. I used to live sort of bottom right of Shot, more or less, at Guildford Park Avenue. So yeah, it was nice. Enjoyed living in Guildford. So anyway, I'm just going to turn around and get a shot of me now. So it's still quite dull out. I've brightened the camera up a bit though. Yeah, it was lovely here, very inspirational. You know, I was a country lad, grew up on the farms on the countryside, so the tractor driving job here at Guildford was perfect. Within the first few days of working on the Guildford Borough Council, I met Peter. We're going to go there in a minute, just have a look at the yard, just have a bit more of a talk there about what was happening. Yeah, so it's lovely. And yeah, I had many great spiritual experiences here, and my awakening too, which we're going to talk about today, and eventually what happened in the end, and I ended up back down in Sussex again. Anyway, we're going to go down, have a look at Stoke Park, where the grounds maintenance was. So this is what was called Guildford Borough Grounds Maintenance. All the vans are here. I started working here early January 94, and I used to drive a tractor which was kept in the backyard up behind those gates. So we'll just go out into the park here, which is Stoke Park, and I'll just chat to you about what happened here. Here, just opposite the grounds maintenance. Yeah, I mean, well, as I said, I was working with Peter here, and I became very good friends with him. I didn't make friends easily, but he was a very integral man, very conscientious, and he kind of took me under his wing, and so happily worked with him when I wasn't tractor driving. Now, one of the things was I was taking on here, the tractor driver who I was going to replace was not due to retire for 2 years, but early spring, March time, I guess, helps him put the tractor implement on the tractor driver I was going to replace in 2 years, and I was just going to go off on the mowing gangs in the meantime, and the boss asked me to stay there, and he went off to see the doctor, and he said, I might get early retirement. And so this was destiny, wasn't it? You know, he came back an hour later, off he went. The boss come out and said, well, this tractor's all yours, do you think you can take it on? I said, yeah, sure I can. So it was destined. I'd been there 3 months and no tractor driving work much that time of year anyway, and been working with Peter mostly and his workmate. So as soon as the tractor driving work started that year, I was tractor driving, so it was destiny, wasn't it? And it was a lovely tractor, air conditioned, everything, so really enjoyed that. Just checking my notes. So you know, time went on, and in the autumn of 1994 I decided that I wanted to make self-improvements. I wanted to be a better person than what I was, and so I started here January 94. I wanted to make self-improvements, and you know, people were coming up to me bitching about the boss here and stuff like that. I said, nope, I don't agree. I think he's a good boss. I think he does a great job. He's got 40 blokes to organise in the winter with not much work. So yeah, so you know, that was my first step of self-improvement. And within 2 weeks of that happening, in the autumn of 94, I started to get a calling inside me, and I didn't know what it was. It was like some deep calling to find something. I didn't know whether it was in me or without of me, and so I, you know, kept struggling with that. Then what I did was I just carried on as I was, but it got stronger and stronger, this calling, heading, you know, through November and December. And then somebody really inspired me in December of 94 to start dancing. So early 95 I was getting fit. I was going swimming once a week to keep my upper body fit, and I was dancing every single night for about 30 minutes because they so inspired me. I wanted to learn to dance. I was so awkward and cumbersome. But after 3 months in March, it resulted in a spiritual experience of dancing, because I earned a reward from my own spirit. So now, so we get past Christmas of 94, and I decided to change something in my life, fairly radical. And I didn't ask anybody for advice, but I did Peter this time, and he said, no hurry to make my decision. But I did make that decision in the early couple of first days of January 95, and I got up for work after the weekend after I'd made this decision, and I got up in the morning, and I'd worked on tractors and out on farms a lot, and I got a lot of dust in my eyes, and I got a lot of very little red veins, capillary veins in my eyes, and also quite bloodshot first thing in the morning, and you know, very noticeable. And you know, I was quite aware I had more bloodshot eyes than most people. I got up this morning, went into the bathroom, looked down at the sink, looked up in the mirror, and my eyes, the whites of my eyes, there was not one bit of red, there was not one capillary vein, they were pure white. And you know, it hadn't been like that ever, even at their best during the day when I was well woke up. So it was, yes, it was a miracle. But did I think it was a miracle? No, because I'm unassuming. What would God do that for me? So I'm going, what caused this? Mind-boggling, you know, I didn't know what it was. So, yeah, it was really weird. And, you know, I was walking around looking at it in the mirrors everywhere all day long, you know, checking my eyes, they stayed white. They stayed like that. So that was the first miracle of God, you know, for me. And I think what it was clear-sighted, you're seeing the right direction, but the calling was still going on. Anyway, so I progressed my dancing, eventually worked up towards that, but before the dancing experience happened, another experience happened, which was I had an amazing miracle happen. And it was March, and it was a lovely spring summer's day, and I went home for my lunch that day, and I sat in the back garden, and I took my shirt off and just sat back in the back garden, and you know, getting a bit of a suntan. And I sat there looking up, and there was these very slightly vaporous clouds. You could see the blue sky behind them, but there was a lot of them. And one come along to block my bit of sunlight. I go, come on sun, burn through that cloud. And the thing, in the arc of the sun, it was quite long, but in the arc of the sun, it just sort of burnt away in the arc. It wasn't just sort of disappearing straight, it was in the arc it was burning away, and it just ate the whole cloud up, and there was nothing, none of it blocked the sun at all. And I was going, what's happening, you know, what's happening? No, this cannot be happening, you know. And so my mind was boggling at what could cause such a thing, because there was loads of them, none of the others were disappearing. I was watching them, no others disappearing, just that one. Then another one came about 5 minutes later. I said, come on son, burn through that cloud. And it did exactly the same thing. I couldn't believe it, I was staggered, I was sitting there amazed. And about another 5 minutes later, same thing again, another son, I go, come on son, burn through that cloud. And it did it again. So I couldn't believe it, it was a miracle. But of course I'd had nothing to do with religion or spirituality or anything, and I just thought, well, I can't understand this, my mind was boggling. I thought, what's going on? Like, you know, you're an unassuming person, you don't think God's going to do anything like that for you. So no, I was amazed. So then you know, I was finding it quite hard to afford my rent about that time too, but it was just after that, in end of March, that I had my spiritual experience dancing, and we'll just go back to that now. So this is the friary again there where I went in the doors. Across the road here is now the casino, but this was actually Harper's nightclub back in '95, and as I said, I've been dancing, started to be inspired to dance from January of '95, and I danced every single day, and I got so good at it, in the end I had a spiritual experience in this club, and come on my own one night. And I got on the dance floor to a song I really liked, and straight away started dancing perfectly for the first time ever. Really great. I was over the moon. So yeah, I knew I'd hit the right spot. My whole body was moving in time and rhythm to the tempo and beat of the music, and I was worthy of a spiritual experience, and all my chakras in my belly started to open up, and then they extended up through my body and down through my body. I lit up like a Christmas tree spiritually, and then my spirit took control and started dancing. I wasn't doing anything, and yeah, just wait for this van to go by. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it was the most amazing experience, and I was literally floating across the dance floor, and I mean floating. My feet were very, very lightly tapping the floor, and I knew I'd found what I was looking for, my calling. I'd found my spirit inside of me, it had woken up and showed me it was there, and a most wondrous experience. So anyway, after that, during that experience, my higher self woke up and spoke to me in thought, and it said, this is just the beginning of what I can do. So it was amazing, and after that experience, it lasted about 3 songs, then went away. I had it twice more later on, but after the experience, I knew that if I could have such an experience, that probably God existed, that my loved ones, my mum and that, were probably in the spirit realm or some afterlife, and that if I could find this much here on this world, that there's probably more you could find. So it left me in no doubt I was also a spiritual being, more than just physical. And I'd found my calling. After my spiritual experience dancing, I'd spoken to Peter one day and I said, I'm finding my rent really hard to afford because I was renting a double bed sit, and we were going out clubbing, doing different things, had a car to run, and the wages for ground maintenance, they're okay but not great. So yeah, I said to Peter, I was finding it hard to afford my rent. He said, well, I said I was going to downgrade to a single room. He said, I've got a spare room in my house, you're most welcome to come and have that room, and I said, well, what rent do you want for it? He said, I won't charge you rent, you can make a donation. And I said, well, an amount which was quite a bit less than I was paying double room, for a donation, and he said, yep, that's fine. So, you know, we sorted out how much together. So it was a lot less. And there was one person objecting to me going there, but I went there anyway and moved in the last week of April, and great things started to happen then. And, you know, so I'd had my calling by then, my spiritual experience, knew I was a spiritual being, knew there probably was the next step, and moved on from there. So yeah, it was great. You know, had a lovely time staying at Peter's. So yeah, we'll have a look there. Then in the end of April '95, I moved here into Cypress Road in Guildford to Peter's home. As I'd said to him a couple of weeks prior, that I was finding it really hard to afford my bedsit double bedroom rent, and thought I'd have to move into a single room so I didn't pay so much rent. And Peter suggested that maybe I could move into his home, and you know, he had a spare bedroom, and you know, give him a donation towards it. He didn't want to charge me rent. So we agreed a sum, and which was a lot less than I was paying for a double bedsit room. And 2 weeks later I moved in, and I'd say he was my best friend. You know what I mean? I trusted him with my life. I've become really, he'd taken me under his wing, and we become really good friends, and he was a very, very conscientious man. So I had a few friends in my life, but I trusted him, and you know, I treated him the same way he'd treat me, in a conscientious way. So yeah, moved in here to Cypress Road. He said, treat it like your own home, and it was really beautiful. Had a lovely stay with Peter for about 3 months in all. So I've been there about a week, and I had popped out and taken somebody home. Got back to Peter's at about 10 o'clock in the evening, and walked in the front door, just going to go straight up to my room and go to bed for the night for work the next day, which I think was going to be a Monday the next day. And Peter said, Neil, could I have a word with you? And there was somebody else in his front room with him. And he said, I've got something to tell you. He said, I am Citadel, the Son of God. And this other person said, what he says is the truth. So, I mean, he was a man of high conscientiousness, and I trusted him with my life. I knew he must be telling the truth. So I knew I'd keep an open mind to that being the truth. And he said, God will prove his reality and existence to you. And left it at that. So I went to bed, got up in the morning to go to work, and the other had left as soon as you know, Peter said that. But got up to go to work, and as I went down to the hallway, Peter came out of his front room and said, Neil, God will prove himself to you today in music. And he said, but do not test God. So I went off to work to Stoke Park on the grounds maintenance, where I worked with Peter to drive my tractor for the day, and had a day of musical proof. And we just go back to Stoke Park now, just to show you that part. So we come to Guildford Stoke Park grounds maintenance, and as I say, I come out in the morning. Peter said I'd have the proof and reality that God will prove himself to me in these ways, which was in musical proof. And I come in, got my orders for the day, jobs to do, went and got in my tractor. I started driving out the yard, turned the radio on, and there was the song immediately just starting that spoke about the reality and proof of God, more or less, you know what I mean. They were all quite modern songs around that era, 95, they'd come out, many of them, and you know, popular songs on the local radio. And had 3 songs straight away that said, you know, God exists, God's real, or believe in him, these sort of things. And you know, Peter said don't test God, but I did, and you know, listened to the radio for a little while longer, just normal songs. Then I decided to turn it off. I turned it off for a few minutes, turned it back on, 3 more songs, exactly the same. And then I pushed the button to change channels, 2 more songs, just the same. So I was in the right place at the right time, and these DJs had been playing those songs, and whether they were inspired in some way or not, I don't know, but there's no manipulation, of course not. It was me just doing the right thing at the right time because it was predictable to Father God. So, you know, this was 8 o'clock I got to work, and by 10 o'clock in the morning I absolutely knew that I believed in God and that there was nothing else but God doing that. So yes, it was great proof, and it went on all day, and I had many more songs like that. I kept changing channels, I kept turning the radio off for a little while and turning it back on. Every time Father God was one step ahead of me and waiting. And it actually, the next day, pretty much went the same, not quite as much. So it was a highly inspirational day. I knew God was giving this to me. It was not miraculous, it was wondrous. And, you know, I knew indeed that, you know, that proved also that Peter indeed was Citadel, his son. And Peter had said to me, you know, he come here when he was born here and had the life of Peter. He was named Peter, and when he was 17 years old, he was awoken to his light, and he travelled into the spirit realm sometime when he was 17 and got awoken to Citadel, his past life. So you become all that you have been. It's like you're a light bulb, and it gets a lot brighter because you remember the rest of your life. You have all the spiritual abilities of the rest of your life too. So it's a great compliment and asset to have a past life, and Father God very carefully picks a person here that will be open and happy to have one, of course, and that they're well matched together. So yes, that was that, and you know, it was wondrous. You know, a beautiful day of musical proof. Now, one I don't remember. I got short-term memory loss, so I don't really remember many of the songs. They're all highly inspirational. They all had a message in that, you know, believe in Him, and you know, God is real and God is there, and all the rest of that sort of thing. The only one I remember, and I will put a link below in the video description, is Moral Inc. is the group, and it was Why Not Believe in Him. And that was sort of a almost sort of gospel-y type pop music song that came out 94, 95 time. And I loved it. You know, it was a lovely song. I've still got it on the CD. So I'll put a link below this video to it anyway. And any other links that need to be there, you know, for this too. So that was wondrous. Yeah, I really enjoyed that day of proof. As I say, I went on all day, and it, you know, it was highly inspirational. So went home that night, you know, and everything was well, and saw Peter, and you know, he was happy for me and everything too. So had many other things happen, but you know, I'm just going through the main ones on this video, otherwise it would be several hours long. As I say, I have made a playlist, which I'll put below this video in the description, of my awakening videos, and they go into far more depth and speak about everything. So I think there's 38 of those. Anyway, we'll go back to Cypress Road. The one thing I was going to say about Peter's home in Cypress Road is that he told me Father God had brought 2 pinnacles all the way from the Citadel, his home. He lives in the Citadel, Peter, in the spirit realm on plane 10, which is the most highly evolved plane that humans have got to. So we're the only most intelligent species. So yes, so he brought 2 pinnacles from the spirit realm to Peter's home here in Cypress Road, and one come down just inside the front room window where the sofa was, and the other one was in the back garden. And he'd said it'd taken Father God 2 days to get those pinnacles to the earth. So he'd worked them down to there. I don't know exactly what they were for, but I know his home was also protected, so no negative or evil spirit could get in there, because there's a few about, so they couldn't get into his home. It was, you know, there. So it was like the Citadel on earth, that home. I mean, it's been taken back now, of course, but it was part of the Citadel on earth, and it was like he was already in his front room sort of thing in the spirit realm when he was sitting in his own home. But yeah, it was a nice vibration in there. It was lovely. Anyway, we'll go back to Cypress Road now. So that was my day of wondrous musical proof where, yeah, I tested God and I couldn't help it. But it was a wonderful and amazing day, it truly was. So stayed at Peter's, and he started teaching me many things, and you know, he taught me that eventually that you know, it was possible to communicate with spirit through mediumship and such like. And I was just going to go up to my room a little bit later, and he said, you know, you do meditation to, you know, find this link to spirit. And I went up to my room and I thought, I'd been up there a few minutes mucking around. I thought, I'll just go lay down on my bed and, have a rest for a little while, and I'm going to try this meditation. So I just laid there and I closed my eyes. I'd been there about 30 seconds in all, and I was just laid on my bed. And by this point I knew that for some things, if Peter asked you something, you had to ask the question to get the answer. And there was a knock, knock, knock on my door, and I didn't hear Peter come up the stairs or anything. He said, "Neil, do you know how to meditate?" So I knew I had to ask, and I said, "No, how do you meditate, Peter?" And he told me how to do a very advanced form of meditation to link with my light, hear my spirit guides, and be open and powered up to my spiritual abilities. And he left. And, so I didn't open my eyes the whole time. I still laid on the bed. So I did what he suggested doing, this meditation, as he told me, and I discovered what he'd told me I needed to discover, and I sent my thoughts, I see this, my light, and can anybody answer me? Or no, he said, what is this light I see? So I said, that to it, and immediately my spirit guides answered. Now, there was a bit of an argument going on between them, it seemed, because I couldn't quite make out what they were saying, but they were all arguing with each other because things were not going right for me in the spirit realm. There was a conspiracy indeed against this whole awakening, and myself and Peter as well. So I didn't know that though. So I got a bit confused and couldn't make out what they were saying, and I went back down and stopped, and as soon as I got up and opened my eyes, the voices stopped, which was my spirit guides. And I said to Peter I couldn't understand what they were saying. He said, "For now it's best that you just speak to this one guide who was a Native American Indian, and actually he was betraying me and conspiring against me, but we'll go into that later, because my awakening, it was truly wondrous and a beautiful thing." So I'd had my day of musical proof, which was beautiful. Peter was teaching me many things, and about God, and that he was indeed the Son of God, which of course God had proven to me when he gave me the day of musical proof. That's Peter, his earthly name generally was Citadel, reincarnated within Peter. So he told me this, and he went on to say that he was a brother of Christ, that they'd both come away from Father God, and that Christ's name meant the safe haven, and that Citadel's name meant the safe retreat. So they're protectors over us too. Anyway, think time went on a little bit, probably towards this, my musical proof was the beginning of May, and maybe mid-May time, towards the third week of May time, Peter said to me, as I was going out again to work, or going out on a Saturday actually, I think it was a Saturday, yes, to go round to Guildford and do some shopping with somebody and go to certain places, and as I was leaving to go out the door to go pick them up, Peter said to me, "Neil, today God will give you proof in your favourite colour." I'd not told anybody what my favourite colour was, so it was purple. And I like that deep purple, that real spiritual deep purple, and really attracted to that deep shiny purple when I see it. So walked out the door and got in my car, and I'm just going to cut to this clip of where I drove up to the junction. So one morning as I got up in Peter's home, he told me God would give me proof in my favourite colour, which I knew was purple. And I come out, reversed out the drive, and come up to this junction here. And as I stopped in the car, I looked right, and a purple Vauxhall Corsa drove past straight in front of me. So it was evidential proof. So this is the Friary Centre, where I had one of my purple proofs. And we'll just go over. So we come into Guildford. This is the first place we went, And we went to walk in these doors, and just as I went to walk in these doors, a woman comes through it, straight out of it wearing a long purple coat. So that was my first purple proof. We then went in through the friary, right to the other end there, and turn right and come out the other doors the other end, which I'll go down and I'll show you where those doors are now where I come out. And yet another purple proof. So these are the doors the other end of the friary. As I say, I was inside coming out. As I come to open the door, a woman opened it in front of me and walked in another long purple coat. So that was my third purple proof. Then we walked across to the road here. And I just walked up to cross over here because we were going to another building just a bit further down here. Look left, right, and another purple Vauxhall Corsa drove past. So yet another purple proof. We'll go to the next place had a proof now. So this is the next place had a proof. I walked along here, and it was the job centre upstairs. I believe this is the right building. And went to open the door, and on that wall there was a big purple poster. So that was yet my next proof, and I think we went upstairs to the upstairs job centre at that time. But yeah, it was there on that wall in the middle of shop. So a big, rich purple poster. And then we just walked down the road here a bit further and up a little cobble street, and I had another proof. So we'll go there now. Just come up where I thought it was, in this little cobble street. It was definitely a cobble street. I can't find the place. But what happened is we walked up it, and we come to a little shop that had like a doorway that was down some steps, and as we were sort of walking up towards it, a guy come out of it, walked up the steps, and he was carrying about 20 violet balloons, which I really like, all violets and mauves and purples. Walked straight up in front of us up these steps. It was a new music shop that opened in '95, just a little one, and had purple writing on. So, that was another proof. Straight out in front of us he walked, and then we went down into the shop. So it was obvious it was meant for me. All in all, that day I'd say I had at least definite 20 purple proofs walking around Guildford and doing different things that day. And then I say there was good 40 I saw, but I dismissed 20 of them and said, well, I could only say 20 were absolute definite in your face, and it was smack in your face. So anyway, we'll carry on now. And so that was my clip of driving up to the junction and then going into Guildford and having those purple proofs. And as I said, I probably had 40, but really discounted 20 of them, and about 20 purple proofs in all that day. So back here in Cyprus Road, I got awoken to many things, and Peter eventually told me that I'd had a past life, and that in that past life I'd been black, African, and I'd been also a soldier, and that had also been Mark, a disciple of Jesus Christ. And Peter said, this is your second time round. So whether he meant in the service of God or not, I don't know, but I believe probably so. So I've been here with Christ, and I'd written one of the 4 Gospels. Now, I don't come here in this day to be a Christian teacher. I come to be a world teacher in this day. So that's the way I'm here. And, I was never a Christian, and in this lifetime I've never followed religion myself, but it serves some, of course. So I have no problems with those that want to pursue whatever they believe in, but in this time you've come to serve the many, and that's all mankind upon this world, out of love and spirituality, isn't it? So that's good. So now I was so inspired by my day of purple proof while here in Cyprus Road that one day I was out tractor driving. I stopped outside of a sewing shop, and I went in there and I bought 2 of these little round dyes, and I wasn't sure whether to dye it purple or violet, so I bought a violet one and I bought a purple one. And I thought, well, I'll probably mix a bit of each of them together and you know, do together. And I got back to Peter's home, and I walked in the front door, walked into the kitchen, put my rucksack down, and it fell over. And one of the dies rolled out on its side and rolled right across the kitchen floor and stopped by the washing machine and flipped onto its back so that it was the die side up. And I walked over and looked at it, and it was the violet one. So I thought, right, I know that was definitely a sign, you know, because it was a sign to do it that colour. Of course it was. And Peter let me dye it in his washing machine, and I put it through, and it came out beautiful, deep, very rich violet, almost purple. So I'd bought this white t-shirt, you know, kind of slightly stretchy one with little lines going down it, a white one, to go out clubbing, and it was brilliant. It came out the perfect colour. And later on, I had the sign of Christ. Now, this was probably the middle of June by now when I had the sign of Christ on me. And I went to go out clubbing one night, and I think I was on my own. And as I went to go to the door, Peter came out of his front room again, and he said, "Neil, tonight you will have a sign upon you where you first begin to perspire." And he'd already told me I'd been a disciple of Christ and everything, so, you know, I held dear to that. And I'd gone out and actually bought a cross to put on. And I'll just go to this first. This cross that I put on, he said to me when I come home with it and put it on, he said, "God has also given you a gift of a cross round your neck, and it shows purple in the nape of your neck." So that was lovely too. I don't wear it these days, don't need to. Probably still got the spiritual one there. It was just a recognition that it was a sign of, you know, his son Christ's disciple from Father God, that's all. You know, went out. Peter said, "You're going to have that sign on you." I thought, well, where do I first begin to perspire in a hot nightclub when I'm dancing down between my chest and across the bottom of my chest? So I thought it was going to be the sign of Christ before I even got there. Walked in the club, and I went down on the downstairs dance floor, and I'll go into the rest of this on the video in Guildford. So during one of my awakening days, I come to go out of Peter's house one evening to come out clubbing here at the Harper's nightclub then, and Peter said, just as I was coming out the door, and I was wearing my purple t-shirt that I'd dyed the violet colour, and come to the club, and Peter said just before I left, as I was walking out the door, that I'd be able to, that I'd have a sign upon me. And he'd already told me I was a disciple of Christ, and he said, "You'll have a sign upon you where you first begin to transpire." And I thought, well, that's going to be down between my chest and across the bottom of my chest, so it'd be the sign of Christ. So I come here, stood on the dance floor, and then went down to the downstairs dance floor. I was just dancing about, just really hot in there, started to perspire a tiny bit, and all of a sudden this bright flash of light came on my chest. I looked down, and it was a most brilliant white, hard to look at almost, and it was the sign of Christ. So yeah, I was really pleased about that. So anyway, after that, lasted about 10 seconds. I looked up, looked round the downstairs dance floor. No, nobody'd seen it. So anyway, I was a bit disappointed at that, but thought, oh well, that's the way it was meant to be. Nobody was meant to share that, and there was definitely no lights in the club could have caused it. It was a miracle, it truly was. Sign of Father God's acknowledgement that I was his son's disciple. So yeah, I was just a little disappointed. About 6 more seconds went by, and all of a sudden it came again, and it lasted about 6 seconds. I looked down at it again. I was smiling my head off. I was so happy. And it went again, and perfect sign of Christ on my chest in bright white light. Looked around the downstairs dance floor. No, nobody's seen it. Looked up to the upstairs balcony, and there was a girl up there, and her mouth was hanging open, and her eyes were transfixed to my chest. that she knew she'd seen a miracle. So she was absolutely gobsmacked. It was an absolute picture looking at her face, it really was. So yeah, that was the most lovely experience, and that truly was a miracle. Here we are in Bognor High Street. When I was with Peter, ended up coming on a trip down to Bognor on a June day. I think it was the 2nd or 3rd week of June. Seagulls. 4 of us come down here to Bognor for the day out from Guildford, and about 30 miles away. Come down here, and I had quite a wondrous thing happen here. That I was, during my awakening, I was having many proofs and miracles happening, and come down here. We started at the top of this street, London Road, which is the main shopping precinct here in Bognor, and as I walked down through the high street here, Father God gave me an ability. It might be an ability I have later on, and I saw aura over the top of everybody's head, 1 to 2 inches off the top of their head. Everybody had a very wavy energy, clear energy aura over the top of their head, and the nearest thing you could describe it looks like it's like a very wavy heat haze coming off a hot road. So quite miraculous. So it was a wonderful experience. I walked from the top of this street, which is just behind me, it starts, down to the bottom, and absolutely every single person had aura. I mean, I've come down here early this morning, so there's not too many people about, but it was quite busy, and yeah, I guess I saw a couple hundred people with this wavy energy field above their heads, that's all. Got to the other end of the street, and it was gone. So it was just a temporary ability Father God gave me. We went and had some lunch in Bognor, had a look round, and this is where I'm now living, here in Bognor. So, you know, whether it was meant to be that way or not, I don't know. After we'd been here for a few hours, about 4 hours in Bognor, we decided to go over to Climping Beach, which is to the east of here, which about 4 or 5 miles away, and I had a visitation of God. So that was a miraculous experience, it really was. You might not call it a miracle, but very wondrous. So I'll talk about that down the park, because I, went there and there was a car park machine and it's not there anymore. So I explained I'm just going to go down the local park and film it instead of going over there, because what I was going to show you is not there anymore. Anyway, we'll go to the park now. Here we are in Hotham Park. My local park is just a couple hundred, about 500 yards away from where I live. So pop down here for a walk most days. As I say, we were in Bognor, Peter, myself and 2 others. We then went over to Climping Beach, which I said was 4 to 5 miles to the east of Bognor. And we got there, and a couple of days before we went there, Father God was involved in things happening around me, and quite a few wonders, and there was a miracle in the end as well. But Peter told me about 3 days before we come down to Bognor that he'd had a visitation of Father God, and Father God come within his body and had done something. So I'm not going to mention what that is, but it was quite amazing anyway. So we turn up at Climping Beach, the car park barrier comes up, go in. There's a car park ticket machine. Now, it wasn't one of these sticky back tickets, it was just a paper ticket, and there was a fair old breeze blowing, so the wind was blowing. Went up to the car park machine, which was a big green one up in front of me, and it had like a drawer, it was just a drop drawer where the bit of paper dropped into. Put the money in the machine, and the ticket, pushed the button, the ticket come down, landed in the drawer, and immediately went whoosh in the wind straight in front of me, and literally I just had time to just sort of flinch, and that was it, because I could imagine myself running down the car park chasing this ticket because it was quite windy. So I had a visitation of God then. So this ticket had travelled from the drawer and it had gone right across in front of me, and it had got to the extent of my reach. It had blown that far, and I just had time to flinch in that time. And just as it got just almost out of reach, my hand, not in my control, from this side, this right hand, just went whoosh, like that, like lightning, and caught the ticket between my thumb and middle finger, I think it was. It was absolutely amazing, and I just had a visitation of God. in spirit come within me, took control of my arm and went jush. So he was in my complete body, of course, and I welcomed him. And then you know, that's what we had that day. So I was in the aura in Bognor, and then, you know, had a visitation of God. So it was just a bit of evidence to me of what God could do, and it was amazing, truly amazing. So we spent the afternoon on the beach, and then we went back to Guildford. And 3 days later, I actually had another visitation of Father God. I got myself in trouble, and he come within my body and got me out. And I'm not going to say what that was, but I was in danger. He got me out of danger by taking control of my body and getting me out of the way, and that was it. You know, and it was great. So yeah, I was very thankful for that. You know, because my health was in danger with that one. So it was just a bit of evidence he can help when he wishes to, and we, you know, have many proofs like this. So wondrous things. Then in the end, on the 16th of July 1995, very sadly I was chased away from Peter's home. This conspiring spirit had got into and blocked my light, and were using technology that was able to render a lot of very terrible things upon me. And so I was chased away from Peter's home down here to Bognor Regis. In the end, I finally found a home after a few months, and that was the end of my awakening. And for those of you that want, I've put a link below to the playlist of my awakening videos that go much more into detail of what happened that day. So thank you very much for listening. Love and light to you, Neil.